Welcome back, 7th graders. This is Mr. Williams again. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about citing evidence. Here are some tools that you're going to need for this lesson. You're going to need, of course, a pencil or pen, notebook, and or some paper. And you're going to need this passage right here that we talked about in our last video that is called How Tornadoes Form and Why They're So Unpredictable. So today's vocabulary word is not one that's in an article, but it's one that we're going to talk about in the lesson. And it's called plagiarism. Plagiarism, the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as one's own. In other words, it's pretty much just stealing someone's words. So the question is, why do we cite? Here's the answer. To avoid plagiarism. We just talked about what plagiarism is. It's the taking of someone else's ideas. So in order to avoid this, we must do a couple different things. We must give credit to where credit is due. Pretty simple. We must be sure to mention the author's name so the reader will know where the information came from. And lastly, always use quotation marks. We talked about this in the last lesson, using quotation marks. That lets the reader know it's not your words, but it's someone else's. Here's another reason why we cite. To show the reader that you're credible by presenting other facts. Readers can go back further and search from your source that you provided. And also, you're just acknowledging other great sources. So, another great question. How do I cite evidence? Or how do you cite evidence? Let's talk about it. Let's explore some different ways to do it. So you can first show some evidence in your response. Now, in the previous lesson, we kind of made mention to this and we practiced it just a little bit. And here are some of those stems that we talked about as well. In paragraph blank, the author states, scroll down, based on what I read. Here's another one. This example provides further proof that. So by using these sentence stems, you're giving credit to where credit is due. Also, you're referring back to the text to validate your response. So guys, let's try this together, all right? I need you to do a couple things. First, I need you to pause the video. Second, I need you to revisit the text that we talked about in the last video. The text is called How Tornadoes Form and Why They're So Unpredictable. What we're going to do today is we're going to cite evidence. So guys, I've created a question that I need you to answer. Here's the question. Why are tornadoes so unpredictable? What you're going to do now is you're going to go back into the text. You're going to highlight those facts, those pieces of evidence that you find, but I only need 2, okay? So go ahead and do that now. So I know you guys found some wonderful things throughout the text. Let's take a look at some things that I found. Even then, we still don't know why some thunderstorms create tornadoes while others don't. Now notice, I'm finding pieces of evidence that fit this question right here. Why are tornadoes so unpredictable? Okay? Here's something else that I found. Let's take a look at this little phrase, strong changes. Emphasis on the word changes. This kind of lets me know, using my inferencing skills, that changes has to do with something being maybe unpredictable, okay? There also needs to be a downdraft in just the right part of the storm, just the right part of the storm. This also tells me, using my inferencing skills, that things just have to be all in the right place for people to actually, or scientists, to really be able to understand what's going on with these thunderstorms. Lastly, more scientific mystery surrounding how tornadoes end. We don't understand how tornadoes die. Just that quote alone, notice the quotation marks, which means someone credible is speaking, okay? We don't understand how tornadoes die. This is someone who is clearly a scientist, and they're even saying themselves, they don't understand how tornadoes die, which then goes back to the question about tornadoes being unpredictable. So now's the time where you get to actually answer the question. Let's take a look at mine. Here's what I wrote. Based on what I read, paragraph 10 states, we still don't know why some thunderstorms create tornadoes while others don't. Tornado chaser Tim Samara said in early 2013, experts that study tornadoes have gained lots of information on how they form, but have found it quite difficult to predict when they will stop. Harold Brooks, a research meteorologist with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says this, but there's more scientific mystery surrounding how tornadoes end. We don't understand how tornadoes die. We can infer the reason tornadoes are so unpredictable is because the text explains how hard it is to track due to erratic behavior of the storms. Tornadoes come and go. This also makes it more difficult for anyone, even experts, to predict. Notice how I used a couple of things. I used the evidence sentence stems from the previous slide. I also cited the text. Within the text, I gave credit to where credit was due. I then cited scholarly or credible sources like Mr. Harold Brooks, the researcher. Now it's time for you to answer the question and build your own response while citing evidence. So throughout your 7th grade career, you're going to be doing a lot of research, even when you get to 8th grade as well. And this is what we call a works cited page. Now your teacher may or may not get to this year, but I just want to introduce it, okay? This is a works cited page. Here's some different ways to cite. In English, we use what's called the Mla format, all right? And in Mla format, there's a specific way to cite sources. So if you look over here, there are a couple different ways you can cite. You can cite books, you can cite periodicals, which are articles, things of that nature, and websites. Here is what the citation will look like for this article. Now notice we don't have a page number here at the end. That's because we lifted this from out of a site. We don't really know what the page number is. But as long as we have the most important information, which is the title, the author, and even the date, you should be okay. As we go forth in 7th grade, you're going to have a few research projects. So what you're going to have to do is get in the habit of kind of recognizing this information as you go along in your research. You don't really want to wait till the end to try to backtrack and figure out where you got your sources from. It's really important that you do it while you're researching, all right? So let's talk about what we've accomplished today. Today, we learned some new words. We learned the importance of citing evidence. We also touched on different ways to cite, and we showed evidence. So that pretty much sums everything up. I'm Mr. Williams, and I will see you guys next time.